The Watch Dogs series is a very interesting one to try and rank. Of the three Watch Dogs games, each one feels different and unique, and they each have their own strengths in different areas of the games. Watch Dogs Legion, the most recent entry, is definitely the most unique because of its recruit system, and while Watch Dogs 1 and 2 may be a little more similar, in terms of tone, they feel like two complete opposites. I want to make something clear, I enjoyed all three of these games, so regardless of where and how I rank them, I do genuinely like all these games. I just strongly prefer some over others, but this is just my opinion, so there's no need to get offended if my ranking doesn't match yours. In fact, feel free to let me know how you guys would rank these games and why in the comments, and we can all discuss it. Also, just a fair warning, I'm not going to go too in depth when talking about these games or anything. I've already made separate reviews where I did that for all three of these games, so I'm just going to sum up why I ranked them where I did. So, coming in last place, we have the newest entry in the series, Watch Dogs Legion. Now, Legion is honestly just a really weird game. The whole appeal to this game was the recruitment system and how you can have any random NPC become the main character of your game. It sounded cool, but it sure makes for one boring story. There's a reason we have main characters in a story. Their presence, development, the plot, and villains all run through the main character. The main character is what brings it all together. And having some random guy whose name you don't even know become your main character, it's just weird. It's hard to be invested in a story when there are no characters to actually invest in. Again, it was a cool concept, but I'm really not sure how much Ubisoft actually thought this through, because all the system did was kill the narrative. The Bloodlines DLC was 10 times better than Legion's main story, especially with fan favorite characters like Aiden Pierce and Wrench at the helm, in which the story could actually focus on. But the main story is just boring. I mean, all the big twists and everything were predictable, especially the whole 0 day thing, and I pretty much felt nothing from this story. It's just so forgettable. I do think it's cool that there are special recruits that each have their own specialties and gadgets and all, and how you can switch between them depending on the situation, but if the cost of that is a terrible story, then it's honestly not even worth it. Now, if they made Aiden Pierce the protagonist for the main game, then I guarantee that would have been way more interesting, but that would have never happened. I also really dislike what they did with the gun selection. Only certain characters get actual guns, and the rest get these weak taser weapons. I think there should have been a gun shop so that every character can get proper weapons. You also can't purchase your own cars anymore, which is a little weird. Some characters have cars they can spawn, but most times you just gotta steal a civilian car, which I thought was kinda dumb. How difficult would it have been to implement the same system as Watch Dogs 1 and 2, where you can spawn in your own purchased cars? I think Watch Dogs Legion took a lot of risks. Some paid off, a lot didn't. I appreciate them going for something more creative and unique, and hopefully they can take Legion as a learning experience if they make another Watch Dogs game. But I mean, compared to Watch Dogs 1 and 2, I think it's safe to say that Legion is the weakest link. Now, this is probably where the most arguments and heated discussions will come in, and whether Watch Dogs 1 or Watch Dogs 2 is the best game of the series. Now, I actually made a which game is better video for Watch Dogs 1 versus Watch Dogs 2, where I go in more depth, but the second best game in the series for me is Watch Dogs 2. Despite it being number 2, I still really like Watch Dogs 2. It's a really solid and underrated game in my opinion. It really didn't sell all that well when it came out, but it's a good game. The story has fun characters, especially Marcus and Wrench. It has a lighter, more campy tone to it, which was a nice change from the dark tone of the original Watch Dogs, and it's got a stunning world in San Francisco. Now, the reason this game is below the original Watch Dogs for me is because, well, A, the story, while fun, isn't nearly as well developed and written, and the villains in this game feel pretty weak. The main antagonist, Dushan Nemec, is a really standard and forgettable villain in my opinion, and I think the story of this game is a lot less deep, emotional, and personal than it is in Watch Dogs 1. It did have some nice gameplay improvements though, with the hacking, being able to shoot while driving. Although the gunplay feels a lot more simplified in this game. The guns don't have as much recoil, they're a lot easier to control, and the system just feels very basic and more dumbed down, if that makes sense. I'm also not a fan of the yo-yo takedowns. I mean, come on, it just looks ridiculous, but it's clear they really wanted to make the polar opposite of Watch Dogs 1 in terms of tone, and they went a little overboard in some areas. I know a lot of people think Watch Dogs 2 is the best and will defend it, but again, this is just what I think. And coming in at number 1, my personal favorite game of the series, the original Watch Dogs. Another really underrated game in my opinion. In fact, this game was honestly really hated when it first came out. I think most of that was due to the E3 graphics downgrade, you know, typical Ubisoft marketing, and a lot of people really didn't even give the game a chance, and those who did labeled it as depressing and bland. A lot of people didn't like the dark tone of this game, but I personally loved it, and I love Aiden Pierce as a protagonist. I even made a whole video defending this man. But to sum it up, Aiden goes through such a journey in this game. He has such a tragic and painful backstory, and he has tremendous character growth in the game. Someone who started out as a simple cyber criminal and gun for hire becomes a crime-fighting vigilante by the end. A lot of people like to say Aiden is basically like Batman or John Wick, and essentially, well, yes. And I don't know about you guys, but I love both Batman and John Wick. But I also think Aiden is still his own character. He's got a family to protect, but he also wants revenge for his niece, and he wants to bring crime bosses to justice. Sure, he's not an overly energetic or charismatic character like Marcus, but I don't think that would even be appropriate for this kind of story. This story feels genuine and real to me, and yes, it has a dark tone and can sometimes be really sad, but that's life, people. And this darker, more realistic tone was really refreshing to me, especially for a Ubisoft game in which they usually don't go for that darker tone. Watch Dogs also has some great gunplay, I think. The weapons handle so well in the game, and I really enjoy the stealth as well, with the suppressed pistol and bow staff takedowns. It's really as close to a John Wick game as you can get, and it's a lot of fun. Chicago is also a very grounded and immersive world, and really a perfect setting for the story. So to me, Watch Dogs is still the best game in the series despite all its flaws and the hate it received. But again, I really do enjoy all 3 of these games, and it is worth mentioning that Watch Dogs Legion's Bloodline DLC and Assassin's Creed crossover were great as well. So I think every game in this series is worth playing. But again, that's just my opinion. Let me hear yours down in the comments. I've also made a lot of other videos talking about all the different Watch Dogs games if you want to check those out, and consider subscribing for more in the future. I also have a Discord server you can join if you want. The link for that is in the description. And other than that, thanks for watching and have a great day, everyone.